everybody, welcome back to another week here in our garden. We're on week 6. It's hard to believe we're already 6 weeks into our growing season here in Alberta, but here we are. If you haven't watched our previous videos, make sure you go back and watch those, and make sure you like and subscribe and hit your bell so that you get notified of our next video. And let's begin our tour. We're going to start in the same spot as usual at our front row of tomato plants. They're getting nice and big. We're really going to have to get our rope lines in place very soon for them. Here in Alberta, we have a short growing season, so we won't be doing too much pruning on our tomato plants, but we may end up having to do some. But they're looking really nice and we're really pleased with those. Our hot pepper patch is looking great. There's even some little tiny peppers starting to develop. So that's really exciting. We'll really get to show you some of those maybe down further in the garden where they're a bit easier to access, but it's starting to look really nice and promising in there as well. Moving down to our center tomato patch, as you can see, it's looking really nice and full. Things are really looking up. We've got a lot of little yellow flowers happening in there. So over the next week or two, hopefully we'll start to see some little tiny green tomatoes starting, and that's going to be really exciting. But it's just really nice to see all this beautiful green growth. Last week, as you saw, we had a very wet week. This last week's been pretty wet as well. We have had some dry days, but we just had some rain earlier today, and all the plants seem to be really happy with that bit of rain today. So looks really good. Moving along to our little herb patch and then our back peppers. Everything here is looking really nice. The herbs are really liking all the rain and really starting to perk up and grow, so that's good. Our dill is starting to flower, so for that I'm going to have to harvest those blooms over the next couple days, and then I will freeze them and save them, allowing the dill to bloom more, and that way I have it for the end of the season when I'm ready to start doing some pickling. Our peppers back there are looking wonderful. There's some of those actually have peppers already developed on them, so that's really exciting. The back pepper there is the one that has a little green pepper right on top. I'm not sure if our cameraman can see it from there, but it's pretty cool that it's right on top, a little bell shape. With all the rain we've had over the last couple days, our asparagus has popped up a whole bunch of new shoots. So that's really exciting because it's, as we've spoken about before, this is like a 3 to 5 year plan before we can really start to get anything from it. So to see that the patch is multiplying still is really exciting. Our garlic's coming along really nicely. No scapes yet. Once the scapes come, we will trim those. Oh, actually I lied. This just popped up today. So this is a scape coming here. Once this end here curls, then I get to cut it off. So that's when I know the scape's ready for me to cut off. But we don't want it opening because that will actually be a flower. That means our garlic is almost ready. It's coming along nicely. Our celery looks great. We have some actual full stalks developing there. So another week or two and we should be able to break off our first couple pieces and enjoy those. The lettuce in the middle is really starting to kick off, so that's looking wonderful as well. Really pleased with that. Well, that section's looking really good. Everything right now is looking really good and we're really happy. It's nice to have a positive week after we were feeling so discouraged last week. Onion patch is looking wonderful. A lot of the onions have doubled, tripled, even quadrupled in size. It's hard to believe that we grew those from seed. Well, everything here from seed basically, so it's hard to believe. Our leeks and kohlrabi and beet patch is looking really nice and full. The right hand side of the beets I am probably going to have to thin out a little bit because it's just so dense, and we probably won't get very big beets when it's so dense like that. The left hand side looks pretty good, so we should be okay. Moving along, we've got our carrots that are becoming nice and tall and leafy, so that's really good. Really happy with that. Won't have to thin that out at all because of the way that it germinated, so that's okay. And then our second little tiny carrot patch that's about a month behind is starting to fill out as well. Something new this last week that we've done is I've removed all our radishes. We've harvested all those, so that's really nice. But I've left 2 of each type of radishes because we had 2 types of radishes in here. I've allowed them to go to flower so that they will go to seed, and then over the next month or 2 we will collect the seeds from these guys so that we can start to collect our own seeds and keep our collection of seeds well stocked. Our eggplant is doing much happier now that I've taken all the radishes out of there, and it's got some actual light and room to grow. So I really think over the next week we're going to see that double in size. Our strawberry patch is looking wonderful. The kids keep eating all the strawberries, but that is perfectly fine. That's why we have them, so that they can come in here and enjoy them. We really hope to expand our strawberry patch in the future. Moving along, we've got our small little bean pole here. Beans are looking really nice. Suspect that they'll start to grab onto the trellis over the next week. On the corner there, the cucamelons are trying to grow. It's been so wet, so that corner gets a little bit of water, it pools in there. So I'm surprised they're still there and doing as well as they are, especially with how cool it's been over this last week. So in the last video, I talked about how I tried to transplant some of our multi-growth spots. Our zucchini made it. It's showing new growth there, so we will have our 3 zucchini plants. When it comes to cucumbers, that was not nearly as successful. I only ended up with 1 cucumber plant, but I have planted at the beginning of last week, I planted a whole bunch of new seeds along there, and they are only a 60-day harvest. So over the next week, we should start to see their new growth popping up, and then that will look fuller once again. Along the front, we have our peppers and marigolds. The peppers are looking really good. On this middle section here, our cameraman will show you a pepper developing, which is really exciting. So that's super cool. Right in there. So that's really neat. So we do have quite a few pepper plants that have peppers starting to develop already. So a little bit more warm weather over the next couple weeks and those peppers will get a chance to grow. But overall, really happy with how everything's looking there. We also have a couple beans on our tiny little bean there. So it's doing quite well as well. We're pleased with that. Just turning around, we're going to take a quick look at our raised planters because everything looks so happy in here, very perky. Our brassicas are still doing great. Our green onions for a companion planting in here are the star right now. They're really helping keep any critters away from our brassicas that are growing in the center of these raised beds. So that is really, really good. We haven't had to put any netting over top or anything yet. So that's awesome. We have it all, but with the wind we have, we've been holding off putting it out unless we absolutely have to. Everything along this side has had some straw added to it to help keep some moisture into the ground here, so we can hopefully try and keep the raised planters with more moisture in them. So that's why you're seeing the straw down there. Our tomato plants on that side have a lot of growth on them and a lot of little flowers. So that's really good. Soon we'll have tomatoes developing there. Those ones are a cherry tomato. But like I said, the brassicas are doing great. Lots of growth here. We even are starting to see signs of baby Brussels sprouts. Very little, but they are in there. So that's really exciting. Some of our green onions in here are actually developing into bulbs. So we're gonna leave some of these guys and let them develop into a bulb, and they'll turn into an actual white onion instead of just a green onion, which is really cool. When we harvest these, we've just been cutting them off at the ends and harvesting their tops and having them that way. But they're doing really, really good. Super happy with that. Everything in our horseshoe garden is doing really well. We've got flowers along our green and red peppers here. Our mini peppers are looking great over there. The tomatoes in our our leftover tomatoes aren't very happy because of how wet it's been, and they have such little cells. That's okay, they are extras. Everything else though is really happy with how wet it's been. Walking back over to the main garden, we'll finish off with the triangle bed and our square trellis. So on the triangle bed, we've got multiple spaghetti squash growing. They took to their transplant quite well, and the majority of them have started to shoot off new growth. So we're gonna have quite a few spaghetti squash plants. So that's really exciting. Our scarlet runner beans has begun its climb up the trellis and is already climbing quite tall. So that is really exciting. This trellis is gonna be covered in no time at that rate. And then we get to our three sisters bed. Really happy with how everything's coming along here. Corn's starting to grow, especially in that center row where it's nice and protected. Everything's growing along at the right rate. So this is really exciting to see this happening. So super pleased with how that's coming along. Super pleased with how everything's looking in the garden right now. As we come around the corner, we're gonna finish off with our potatoes. Over this last week, I've had to go through and actually trim the flowers off of our purple potatoes here. We do that so that the potato plant will push its energy back down to growing potatoes instead of growing flowers. Although they're pretty, it's not necessarily what we want out of the potato plant. And then to finish off, we've got our row of peas. They are about halfway up their fence. We've got lots of flowers down in there. So we're gonna be climbing down in there over the next couple weeks, hopefully to collect some peas. And then we'll be shilling the peas, and maybe we'll have to make a video of how to shill the peas for you guys to watch. But that's it for this week's garden tour. So I hope you've enjoyed. So please remember to like and subscribe and follow along for more. See you next week. Bye now.